We are presented by WynnBET. Betting is a team sport. Bet together at WynnBET. Eric Allen in the studio, joined by former Jets offensive lineman Damien Woody, who is an analyst on ESPN. And you might find him on Twitter Spaces. Anybody talking Jets football, D Wood is the man. So I figured, hey, we got to bring you on board the official podcast. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me on, E.
No doubt about it. So schedule release a couple weeks ago. You guys are in the unenviable position of going through each team and giving a record out game by game. You said for the New York Jets, 8-9, a 4-game improvement. You think things are looking up for this team?
Oh, absolutely, Eric. I love the vision, the culture that Joe Douglas, GM, the improvement that they made down the stretch. It didn't quantify necessarily in wins, but you just saw how this team just kept fighting, and then to see the front office, kind of supplement what was already on the roster with a strong free agent class and a draft class. And I think, this has a recipe for a big step forward for the New York Jets this year.
What's the challenge in terms of instilling a culture on a team that hasn't won in a long time? We go back to your days, and we're going to talk about that coming up. But as far as Robert Saleh is trying to bring a different mentality, and you saw it last year, but now for the Jets, they got to take that next step and actually win more games.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, number one, you got to be a leader of men. You got to have the ability to have guys buy into your vision. And that's the other aspect of it, is you got to have a vision for what you want your program to be. And then I think the third thing is just a strong locker room chemistry, bringing in the right type of guys with high character, high football IQ to be able to execute that vision. And I think Robert Saleh is the right guy to do that. I think you saw, him laying the foundation last year in the season where, obviously there was a lot of firsts going on. First-year offensive coordinator, rookie head coach, a defensive play caller that hadn't been calling defensive plays, that long. And then obviously a lot of first and second-year players. But the foundation was laid last year, and that's how you start to build a culture in the locker room.
Saleh's talked, D. Wood, about closing the gap inside the AFC East. The Bills have won the division the last 2 years, I think an 11-1 mark inside the division over that time span. The Jets looking for their first division win under Robert Saleh. I wrote the other day that I think there's going to be an interesting race as far as second place in the AFC East. When you look at the Jets and the landscape of the division, how has it changed this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, think about what's going on in the division, right? You got Miami Dolphins with a new head coach with Mike McDaniel. He's going to be a first-time play caller. And then look what happened in New England. Josh McDaniel, the offensive coordinator, moves on to the Las Vegas Raiders. So you have change at a couple other divisional rivals. And we all know with change can come some adversity, with those things. And the thing I love about the Jets is that their whole system is in place for a second year in a row. Something that wasn't commonplace not that long ago in this organization. So you got a team in the Jets where you got, the same offensive system, same defensive system, same coaching staff, and then you just adding on players to go along with the nucleus that's already there. So that right there in and of itself is an envious position, for the Jets compared to the other two teams in the division, and the Patriots and the Dolphins.
What's the importance of OTAs from a team perspective? Obviously, this is all still voluntary. So within the confines of the CBA, players don't have to come. And Robert Saleh has talked about having a different kind of pace. Well, pace is not the right word, but different kind of format this year. Not many team sessions where you're going 11 on 11, more 7 on 7 work, installs, individual work. What can be done during the spring that's very important for a team?
Well, I would say championships are won in the offseason. A lot of people think it's the work that you're doing in the season, but championships are won in the offseason, whether it be the weight room, in the meeting rooms, OTAs, mini camps. That's where you lay the groundwork in order to win those hard fought games during the season. So listen, I know the Jets are putting in the work. I think what Robert Saleh is basically saying with, kind of, I don't know if, letting off the gas per se, but I think the overall focus is making sure his guys are get to week one, because ultimately, this, Eric, that's what's really important, making sure you have your roster intact, all your important pieces intact in order to go out there and attack the opponent. So we saw what happened last year, in the offseason training camp with, for instance, Carl Lawson going down with that ruptured Achilles, just making sure this roster is able to get through clean and unscathed and ready to go week one.
What do you want to see from the Jets at the tackle position? Mekhi Becton, obviously working out on his own right now. We'll have to see what happens this week. But Robert Saleh has been clear about it, that there is going to be a battle at the left tackle position. George Fant did some good things last season. In a perfect world, what do you want to see from the Jets at the tackle spot?
Well, listen, I can't, I don't have my crystal ball as far as who's going to play where, but what I will say is, once you get to, mini camp and ultimately training camp, you want to kind of sort out this battle as soon as possible, because you want guys to find their positions, and then ultimately everyone, start working on that chemistry and cohesion. Because as you know, Eric, the one thing about the offensive line, you got to get 5 guys to play as one. And you don't want a prolonged battle at the left tackle spot. You want guys to kind of get settled in their spots so they can work on the communication between them and the person adjacent to them, and ultimately just having that chemistry between the 5 guys who are going to be out there.
What's the potential of this line, though, after adding Laken Tomlinson free agency? The Jets love Elijah Vera Tucker. He's going to slide over to the right guard position. Connor McGovern did a lot of good things at the center position. I think that went under the radar last year. He loves this system. And Fant was really a find. Highly athletic dude who was used all over the place in Seattle. And I know you have to love that considering your background.
Absolutely. I think this offensive line has the potential to be really, really good this year. You got a mixture of like high draft picks along the line. You got a late bloom in George Fant, who has like a basketball background, didn't get utilized all that much during Seattle. So even though he's, I believe he's 30, he doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires as far as a lot of playing time. And then, Connor McGovern, who fits this system to a T. So I think you got a really good blend of guys who, I think everyone combined together, the sum of the parts can be really, really special if you get those guys settled in and taking a bunch of reps and being ready to go.
What does Zach Wilson's next step look like? We saw him take some strides down the stretch, particularly protecting the football, but the Jets will always say this offense is predicated on running the football. And we talk about the strength with the offensive line. Then they add a Breece Hall to the equation. You got Michael Carter. You got Tevin Coleman. You have Ty Johnson. You have guys who can get after it in the run game. What do you think his next step is with more pieces around him?
Well, I think for him, it's the mastery of the playbook, right? Just having to learning the nuances, the little things that can take his game to the next level. I don't think anyone can doubt his physical attributes. I think his arm talent is special. I think he's a very athletic quarterback. But in this game, in the National Football League, you win the games from the neck up. And so for Zach Wilson, it's just mastering the nuances of Mike LaFleur's offense. Combine that with, being a run-first offense and really getting this run game going. If he can do that, with the weapons that Joe Douglas and company has surrounded him with, he can be primed to really take a huge step forward this year.
What weapon is going to make the most impact, do you think? And I just talked about Hall, but obviously the Jets selected Garrett Wilson, number 10 overall. And then you've been very vocal about what you like at the tight end position, because this is a dramatic overhaul there.
I'm really excited about the tight end position. It's been like a wasteland for like a decade, to be honest with you, at the tight end position. And we know in this system, this Mike LaFleur system, the tight end position is very important. It's unique. It's a system that's very friendly to tight end. So the Jets bringing over, CJ Uzomah and Tyler Conklin over, and then drafting the Rucker kid out of Ohio State. Now you have a totally different dynamic at the tight end position, because not only are these guys, very good at being good run blockers, but just adding a dimension in the passing game for a young quarterback. And that's just so paramount, for the development of a young quarterback, is having reliable pieces at the tight end position.
Do you think, I don't want to say blessing in disguise, because Tyreek Hill is a great player, but now looking back at it, the Jets obviously made a play for him. Do you think this could work out in the end as far as a favorable situation when you're talking about cost certainty with young players?
Yeah, I do. And that's not taking anything away from Tyreek Hill. He's one of the special players that we have in this league, because he has something you just can't teach, which is an abundance of speed. But when, with that type of talent, there's a cost attached to it. And we know that with that cost, that contract, some of the other moves that the Jets, were able to make this offseason probably wouldn't have been made had they had traded for Tyreek Hill. So listen, again, I'm not taking anything away from Tyreek Hill, because he's a very special player. But you look at all the moves in its totality, as far as the Jets concerned, you're talking about a very well-rounded offensive roster that has the ability to really be explosive.
When's the last time the Jets had the potential to be this explosive at the wide receiver position? We saw Elijah Moore last year. He really got cooking before he headed to injured reserve. Joe Douglas reminded us all that Corey Davis was on pace for 1,000-yard season, and he's a big-bodied receiver. Garrett Wilson added to the equation. His production at Ohio State off the charts. Braxton Berrios back in the fold. And the Jets, by all accounts, D. Wood, are really happy as far as what Denzel Mims looks like right now.
Yeah, Eric, our friend Rich Shamini actually passed this stat on to me, which was just mind-boggling. The Jets, between Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, and Jamison Crowder last year, they only played 60 snaps together, which is basically equivalent of one game. Think about that for a rookie quarterback in Zach Wilson. He basically played an equivalent of one game with all his top targets on the field. That's crazy. And so you think this year, with the plan that Robert Saleh is going to implement, and trying to make sure his guys get to week one healthy, being able to have Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Braxton Berrios, Garrett Wilson, all of these guys healthy and available, that is going to do wonders for Zach Wilson in this offense.
WynnBET is now live in New Jersey, and they're bringing the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas to online sports betting. Get in on all your favorite teams, players, and sports, from boosted parlays to live in-game odds on every major sport. They have what you need to win. Sign up today to receive a special offer, risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning. WynnBET, an official sportsbook and gaming partner of the New York Jets. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at wynnbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in New Jersey. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-270-7117.
What do you like most about what you're seeing on paper from the defense as far as the numbers concerned, the defensive line? You mentioned it before. Clean bill of health. That's huge for the Jets moving forward. If Carl Lawson is in the lineup week one against the Baltimore Ravens, it's going to be a big piece. They trade up for Jermaine Johnson. Michael Clemens added to the mix. They also re-signed Vinny Curry. Jacob Martin comes over from Houston. So you got a lot of numbers up front. Or do you look back at the reshuffled secondary? What stands out to you most about defensively what the Jets have done here this offseason?
Everything, Eric, everything. Because when you talk about defense, and Coach Saleh would talk about this, rush and cover go hand in hand, right? So the Jets actually address both of those. They are super deep at the defensive line position. Obviously, the headliner is getting Carl Lawson back, who was primed to have an outstanding year last year, and then unfortunately had the Achilles injury. But him coming back and hopefully being healthy, plugging him next to Quinnen Williams. I've always said this, man. When you're surrounded by good players, guess what? It elevates your play. So I think Quinnen Williams is going to have a breakout year this year. And then obviously John FranklinMyers on the other side, and Jermaine Johnson, and Sheldon Rain, because this is a very, very deep room. I don't even know if all these guys will be able to make the roster. It's that much competition in the D-line room. And then when you look in the back end, particularly in the secondary, the thing I love about last year when they played all those guys, those young guys, the Bryce Hall and the Brandon Eccles and all those, young defensive backs, is Now it has created depth because you draft
Mm-hmm.
Sauce Gardner with the number 4 pick. You bring in DJ Reed, through via free agency from Seattle, Jordan Whitehead. So all those young guys got a lot of playing time. And now you're talking about a depth chart that looks totally different than it did in 2021. So I'm really excited about this defense. I think this is an opportunity for those guys getting these snaps in OTAs and minicamp and ultimately training camp to continue to bond and mesh together. And I think we're going to look at a much improved defense as well.
Man, I am so happy you mentioned John FranklinMyers because we cannot forget his part to this equation. He got the re-signing, got the new deal early last year, but his flexibility, his versatility really can come to light this year, right? When you have that kind of numbers at defensive end, he can play outside, but then he can shift inside, and he's a big mismatch against most guards in the National Football League.
Yeah, I think that's where he can really wreak havoc, right? You put in the work on first and second down and then on third down, the money down, now he kicks inside. And that's where the real advantage comes. And obviously you're getting your best rushes on the field. You're talking about potentially Carl Lawson, Quinn Williams, John FranklinMyers, and then, a combination of all the other guys, whether it's Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens, all Jacob Martin, all these other guys. And now you got guys just humming off getting after the quarterback. So this Jets defensive line has a lot of variety. You can mix and match it a lot of different ways. And most importantly, you can keep guys fresh because they have so much depth in the defensive line.
CJ Mosley was a team MVP last season. If anybody had any doubts on what he's still got left in the tank, all those questions were answered and then some. He's still one of the finer inside linebackers in the NFL. Let me ask you about Quincy Williams, though. What is his ceiling?
I think he can be special. This is a guy last year who has unbelievable athletic ability. We saw it last year, the speed, the impact on, the violence that he brought as far as his tackling. But this was a guy that came to the Jets, the latter part of summer, early part of the season. So he was still trying to figure the system out. He was running more on just athletic ability than the instincts of the linebacker position. So now giving him the whole offseason to kind of understand the nuance of playing linebacker in the system and learning from a guy like CJ Mosley, now I think you're going to have a smarter linebacker, a guy who is able to use his physical traits and physical tools to the best of his ability. That will make him an even better linebacker. So I'm expecting huge things from Quincy Williams.
How much have you enjoyed watching Saleh and Joe Douglas go to work since Saleh came on board in January 2021?
It's really been refreshing because, I talk about the one thing I love is the synergy between the two. It seems like there's a synergy between the front office and the coaching staff. And you hear it all the time. Joe Douglas talks about what Coach Saleh has brought to the table as far as culture. And you hear, Coach Saleh talk about how Joe Douglas involves him in a lot of, kind of like the player profile, player description, as far as the type of players that they want to bring into this program. So there is a tremendous synergy between the two. And what usually happens is that permeates to everything else within the Jets organization. So I think this is the first time in quite some time where you're seeing everyone kind of, linked together and thinking the same way within the organization.
Do you take anything from the schedule? I know you went through the game by game on ESPN and said 8 and 9, and you think they can get on a second half run, but particularly I wanted to ask you about the AFC North run with those first 4 games, and then the AFC East split, D-Wood. You have 3 home games before the bye against your division rivals, 3 road games after the bye against AFC Eastern teams.
Yeah, I would say the schedule makers didn't do the Jets any favors. But listen, if you aspire to be one of those, to take that giant leap, that's what it is. The schedule is what it is. But, Eric, the one thing I would talk about as far as the schedule is concerned as a former player, all we usually concern ourselves with is, number one, who we play week 1, okay, and when is the bye. And I think the bye falls at the perfect time for the Jets. But you can't – as players, we're taught to break everything down in quarters. We know the first quarter is going to be the whole AFC North, the whole gauntlet in the AFC North. And you just got to quarter by quarter try to win the quarter. If you can put together that, that's how you ultimately get yourself in what I call the tournament in the postseason.
And that's a great transition because I want to go back to you and your playing career with the Jets in 1 second. You played with a young quarterback in Mark Sanchez. Do you see similarities between him and Wilson, or just totally different guys? I mean, obviously it's a totally different team, totally different situation, but I always tell people that Sanchez walked into one of the most unique opportunities ever, considering he was an early first-round pick. Great offensive line, great running game, historically good defense.
Yeah, that was a unique situation because, usually when you pick it in the top 5, you're a bad franchise, but that wasn't the case when Mark Sanchez when we traded up to number 5. We were a good football team. We had a lot of veteran players, a lot of really good pieces in place. So Mark was in a kind of unusual situation where, he didn't have to be kind of the savior. We were, obviously that, when he first came on, it was about running the ball and it was about playing really good defense and letting Mark Sanchez kind of, learn on the fly. And I think, the difference with him and Zach is in a situation where the whole team is young, right?
Yes.
The whole team is young. So you got a young head coach, who's in his second year, young play caller on both sides of the ball. A lot of the critical foundational pieces are young. So this whole operation is growing together. And what you want is these guys hopefully these guys mature together, mature at a really good pace. And that's how you have something special brewing for years to come if that happens.
Okay, so 2008, Damien Woody signs a free agency deal with the New York Jets. What attracted you to the Jets? And can you talk about your start? Because there are some interesting names on that staff, including current Giants head coach Brian Daboll.
Yeah. It was, when I was a free agent, I was really eyeing the Jets because obviously my relationship with Eric Mangini, which dated back to my New England days. He was the coach on the staff, and we was always really, really good, really friendly and good friends. And I was, during that time, I was craving for that flavor again, that structure, that program. And Eric Mangini had brought that to the New York Jets. And obviously, Brian Daboll was on that staff as well. So there was a lot of familiarity. And I love the pieces that the Jets had already had on the roster, a lot of really good young pieces. They just needed to augment it with a lot of with some veteran players. Obviously, myself, Alan Faneca came on that year, Tony Richardson, Calvin Pace. There were a lot of guys that the Jets brought in, and then ultimately that over the next couple of years that led to back-to-back AFC Championship runs. During that time period.
What would have made for a different ending in 2018? You guys were 8-3. You went to Tennessee, who was unbeaten, and you pounded them, man. 34-13, rushing for nearly 200 yards on the ground. What would have made for a different ending? I know it all turned out good because you made a transition and made it look seamless, but I just wanted to ask you about the end of that 2008 campaign.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Brett got hurt. I think he had it was the elbow or shoulder, one of those injuries, and that really derailed us because we were hot. I feel like we were the best team in the league, to be honest with you. We were absolutely hot. The week prior, we went up to New England, beat New England, and then we came back against an undefeated Tennessee Titans team on the road and just really smacked them around. So we felt like we were in a great position. Unfortunately, Brett Favre sustained that injury, and it kind of, tailspun after that. But that was a really good team, which, actually it set us up pretty well, because we go out, we get Rex, and Rex comes in and he brings his own culture in with the veteran presence that we had. We draft Mark Sanchez, and we went on a nice little run those for myself those next couple of years. So it was a really special time.
WynnBET is now live in New Jersey, and they're bringing the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas to online sports betting. Get in on all your favorite teams, players, and sports, from boosted parlays to live in-game odds on every major sport. They have what you need to win. Sign up today to receive a special offer, risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning. WynnBET, an official sportsbook and gaming partner of the New York Jets. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at wynnbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in New Jersey. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-270-7117.
What's your favorite memory from '09? You guys lose, and I remember this vividly, to Atlanta at the Meadowlands in week 15. And Rex comes out, talks to the media and says, well, that's it. That's it. We're done. We're not going to be in the playoffs anymore. And then, of course, you go to Indianapolis. They sit their starters. You win that game. Then the win and they're in against the Cincinnati Bengals, and you trash them. And then you get on that run in the playoffs, beating the Bengals, going to San Diego, and taking care of business against the Chargers before that season ends in Indianapolis. What stands out above all when you're talking about '09?
Yeah, there was a lot of roller coasters, obviously, with the young quarterback who was still finding their way. I think against the Atlanta Falcons, that was a tough loss in that game against the Atlanta Falcons. But the one game that it just really stood out to me was in the divisional round. We played the then San Diego Chargers, and I believe that team was really good. I think they were like 14-2. They were like I think the best team in the league. And we went out there. Nobody gave us a chance to win that game against them. And we went out there and just played our brand of football. We smacked them around, ran the ball all down their throat. Defense played lights out. And, the one play that stood out, obviously, was Sean Green when he just busted the line and ran that. It was like a 50-something yard touchdown run. And, that kind of sealed the deal, to be honest with you, in that game. So that game was really special and really stood out for me.
How special was it? 4th and a foot. 1:09 left. You're holding on to that 17-14 lead, and Rex says, stay on the field, and you guys get 2 yards with TJ.
Well, that's typical Rex, right? Rex was like, one beautiful thing about Rex was he really consulted and believed in the players. And his whole thing is, okay, if we're going to ride with you, you got to make it work. And so we're on the sideline, and Rex was like, well, what do y'all want to do? And without saying any, explicatives, we were like, man, we're going for it. We didn't come this far to not go for it. And we just lined up and ran our usual short yardage play, and we got more than enough to convert the first down and ultimately ice the game. So it was just one of many special moments during that time. And we had an elite offensive line, elite backs, and it was really fun playing that brand of ball.
Do you think we're ever going to see a team like that again who played that way?
Oh, man, sometimes I think things happen in cycles.
Yeah.
But, man, it's just hard to envision things going back that way because of the rules and how easy it is to, the league wants it to be a passing league because passing, you get the chance to score a lot of points. So I don't know if you're going to ever go back to ground and pound and teams that, predominantly run the football like that. But, man, it was fun from an offensive lineman perspective. But I enjoy watching these young quarterbacks going out there and thrive on the football field.
Yeah. Okay. So 10, what is your perspective there as far as that run? Because, dude, you were such a big part of that team, and you go down with the Achilles in Indianapolis. So can you take me through your mind during that time?
Yeah, man. I was really excited about that team. I thought that team was a Super Bowl team as well. And that wild card game, boy, it was a great game going up against Peyton Manning again. I think it was I forget the building that it was in, but man, that place was rocking, and to be able to have that chance to get a win against great Peyton Manning, and ultimately, for me, unfortunately, I end up tearing my Achilles on the last drive of the game in a 2-minute drill. But ultimately, we got the team winning. It was a big win, and we knew that it meant so much to not everybody. Whether you're talking about Jason Taylor, who was who was on that roster at that time, LaDainian Tomlinson, and then obviously Rex Ryan, who was, Peyton Manning always been a thorn in his side, and be able to get that win against Peyton Manning was something special for a lot of people.
I think that would have been remembered as one of the most magical runs in NFL history if the Jets had completed that deal in Pittsburgh. But for you, those two games, Indianapolis and then Pittsburgh, how did you take them in? You were so durable throughout your career, and then obviously Achilles during a situation where you were such a big part of that offensive line, and Wayne Hunter comes in and takes your spot, obviously.
Yeah. Like I said, man, injuries are a part of the game, and unfortunately, that was my 12th year in the National Football League, and things like that happen. But it didn't stop me from being the biggest cheerleader for my team. And then they went, obviously the Jets went on and beat the New England Patriots in Foxborough. That's one of the biggest games in Jets history, going out there and exacting that revenge in that game up there in Foxborough. And ultimately, I think running out of time against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC Championship game, because, boy, man, just talking to guys, if guys say the same thing, man, if we had like another 3 minutes, we would have won that game, because the momentum was clearly on our side at the end of the game. So, things happen, injuries happen. I don't regret any of that. That's just part of the game. But, boy, I was really fortunate and blessed to be a part of the organization, and in particular part of that locker room.
How much did you enjoy being a part of Hard Knocks? They go to different teams every year. Our in-house documentary group or production group is putting together an unbelievable series that's going to rival anything out there. New Heights this year, Jets Flight 2022, New Heights. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be released June 17th here at the end of minicamp. But for you, from your perspective, what was it like in the reaction that you guys got being part of Hard Knocks?
It was great, man, because we had, Hard Knocks was tailor-made for that team. We had so many characters. Obviously, it started with Rex Ryan, and everyone knows Rex Ryan is a character in and of himself. But we had so many guys on the team, that were just, really funny, man. And the one thing that Rex talked about was like, look, guys, embrace this, enjoy it. Like, play into it. And so the whole crew at Hart, with the NFL Films, did a tremendous job of kind of blending in behind the scenes and just making the whole experience fun. And the whole team really embraced it. And, just talking to people over the years, everyone always mentioned that Jets team as the best Hard Knocks season that they've ever saw. So we had a great time with it, and I think the fans did as well.
You grew up in Virginia. You went to Boston College. You were a first-round pick. You won 2 championships with the Patriots. You decided to settle here in Jersey. Can you talk about what you like about this spot, and then also your connection with Jets fans? Because we were talking about it at the beginning of this podcast, that you constantly engage folks in such a positive way.
Yeah. It's when I decided to retire after the Achilles injury, my older kids were teenagers, and I didn't want to move them anymore. We really love New Jersey. We love the people here. So we just decided to plant the flag here, and we've been here ever since. And, just my affinity for the organization. I love the people in the organization. And because I had such a great experience playing with the organization, I've just, this is a love there that I have for the organization, and I want them to do well. And I always tell people there, anything that I can do to help further that along, I'm willing to do that. So I love the direction that this team is headed. I think they got the right leadership in place. I love Coach Saleh and what he's brought to the table, and then a lot of these young guys that are there. And, my hope is that they take this next step forward this year and really, and really let the league know that, hey, the Jets are back.
Indeed, Woody says, don't be surprised if the Jets are 8-9 playing meaningful football games in December. What do you think that atmosphere is going to be like at Metlife Stadium 21 years after 9/11, when the Jets do, in fact, host the Baltimore Ravens for their opener, a game that you picked the Jets to win?
Yeah, it's going to be special. It's going to be special, Eric, because obviously the Dayton 9/11 and what it means to New Yorkers, just the tri-state area in general. I think the energy from the fan base, from everything that's happened with this organization this offseason, and combine that with a home opener and going up against a very good opponent in the Baltimore Ravens, it has a recipe to be electric. So I expect this crowd to be electric, to be fired up, and I'm going to be in the house, and I can't wait to watch that game on September 11th.
We can't wait to see you there. We appreciate you taking your time after your Peloton ride to catch up with us, and we got to do this again soon.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on, Eric.